Welcome back to the channel. This is Roberto with Full Curl Precision. Um, the one thing I've been kind of trying to do is incorporate as much as I can into the minimal amount of adjustment to something in order to gain better achievement. Now, I know some people are gonna, for their personal preference, may not appreciate what I'm putting into it, and that's fine. Uh, this cartridge isn't for everybody. Everyone has their preference. I can build it to 3.34 and there's somebody who's going to gripe that it's not inside of a short action. I could build it in a short action and there's somebody go, "Oh, why isn't it in a long action?" Look, not everybody's going to agree, and that's fine. But make it no I want this to be very clear. I'm not deviating my course. All right? I'm not working this hard on something to change it now. What that means is for the guys who don't appreciate me seeding these out further, that's okay. I'll design something else that you will appreciate. That's going to come down the line. Not everything has to be for you. All right? If you don't want to use this particular cartridge, you're okay with that. That's fine. And I'm not going to get mad about that. But, the thing is, there's a reason why we have so much variety, because people have their different preferences. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. So, again, are there advantages to my cartridge over a standard length cartridge? Yeah, there are, because I've showed it in pictures, in different videos. If I seat this thing to 3.34, I'll never adjust the lands to where it, or even the twist rate. If the bullet is not going to be heavy enough to call for a faster twist rate, it's irrelevant than what I'm doing. If that's the case, then just go get a 270 AI. If that's what you're after, because the entire point is to seat the bullet out further. The length of the 170 grain Bergers and the 175 grain Sierras is such that if I seat it to 3.34 and stay within that standard length, that bullet protrudes so far down into the powder reservoir, it's ridiculous. It doesn't make sense to keep it to 3.34. It doesn't work. It's counterproductive. That's why when you look at something like the 280 AI, when it starts getting over that 160 grain mark, you lose a tremendous amount of velocity, and you also lose a tremendous amount of efficiency, because you can't really have it seat properly inside your lands. That bullet protrudes down into the powder reservoir. It goes past the neck, past the shouldering. And that's counterproductive. I mean, that's the whole reason why you have the Creedmoors and the PRCs doing what they're doing. Okay? The 6.8 Western doing what it did. It's like, well, it lost powder reservoir. What good is to have the powder reservoir bigger if the bullet's taking up a bunch of the space? It doesn't work. That's why Winchester shortened the 270 WSM to accommodate for keeping the bullet out of the powder reservoir. That's the entire point. Same thing with the Creedmoors. Same thing with the PRCs. Okay? So, while I understand that some people want me to keep it inside of a certain length, what that means is I'll use a different cartridge and develop something different that will fit inside 3.34 that those guys will appreciate. But for the guys who are willing to try something different, then yeah, they'll appreciate what I'm doing right now. And, I went through and, there's been a pattern through different cartridge manufacturers to do a family of cartridges where they'll go through and go, oh, here's the 6.5 this, here's this, here's this, here's this. So you have like the 26 nozzler, the 26 nozzler, the 27 nozzler, the 28 nozzler, 30 nozzler, 33, 35. That's cool, but how many out of those are really all that popular? Really, the main ones that you're going to find as far as popularity in the nozzlers are going to be your 28 nozzler and your 30 nozzler. It's just because the case is so overbore and ridiculous once you start crossing down into 27s and 26s. So instead of me trying to go that route, I decided I would rather stick with a singular caliber and just build several casings around it that will allow people to have a new selection of 27s, because the 28s for the most part are played out. If you want a short action in a 28 caliber that's in a standard case, you got the 7mm 08. You want a short action Magnum in 7mm, well, there's the 7 SAUM, there's a 7 WSM. There's those options. You got the 280 Remington, the 280 Ackley Improved, the 7mm Backcountry, the 7 Rem Mag, 7 PRC, 7mm Weatherby Magnum. Just name it. There's all sorts of 7mm out there. So I don't really feel the need to explore that avenue. Same thing when it comes to the 30 calibers. There's an extensive amount of 30 calibers. There's no reason for me to even develop any more into that. Where there tends to be a real lack in the market is in the 25s and the 27s. The 6.5s are basically all played out. I mean, how many modifications can you make? But the thing is, this is where my passion is, and I plan on going with it. It works well in my rifle. There's a handful of other rifles it works well in. It may not work well in everything. That's okay. The fact is, there's a constant changing motion of technology. Some companies choose to stay behind, and some choose to advance. If a company wants to stay behind and not advance into it, they can stay in the Stone Ages. It's not my problem if they don't want to do this. Okay? The idea is to promote advancement in better technology, not leave it behind. And so the entire point of this is to make something that's going to be on par with a standard 270 as far as affordability, but also that performs closer to a 270 WSM, a 6.8 Western. Okay? And also be able to kind of keep up with it with the 7 PRC a little bit. And same thing with the 6.5 PRC. So if, everyone has their own idea of what is affordable. If it's not something you want to do, then don't do it. Okay, that's fine. I respect that. But, there's no $10 boxes of ammunition anymore. Not if you're shooting center fire and that's actually ethical. And I mean that genuinely. There's some guys who go out and they'll use a 223 on deer and elk at 400, 500 yards, and I'm just like, you are out of your mind. Now, are those guys good shots? Yes. But I still wouldn't recommend any of that happening with a 223 or 5.56 or even a 22 ARC or a 22 Creedmoor. It's just the idea of using a marginal cartridge to achieve something way larger it doesn't work. I don't feel, you're going to get obviously the guys who do put them down fast, but that's going to be the exception and not the rule. I believe in using adequate energy. And so if I can give somebody a cartridge that is flexible, and this is definitely that, I'm going to do it. And here's the thing. I am planning to get this patented. And no, under no circumstances am I sharing all my proprietary data on this. Not on a public platform. I don't care if, a company can come out and change their own data on it. They can create their own thing, but that's going to put them years behind research and development. Okay? That's why I'm doing this. I'm advancing the research and development into the next era. So, my stance is still going to be the same, and no, it's not changing. I have a vision, and I plan on achieving it. There's a lot of guys that want to do it. So, here's the thing. Like I said, it's not the only iron in the fire. I have other cartridge designs I'm working on. I'm even working on a rifling pattern, which actually may end up being the bigger difference here. So, the plan is and will be to, especially when it comes to the rifling pattern, is to have the same length of barrel. Let's say you have two 24-inch barrels, to achieve 100 to 125 feet per second by simply changing the rifling pattern. And still while maintaining good control and everything else too. And the reality is the goal with my particular cartridge is to combine competitive style accuracy, but apply it more to the hunting world with hunting bullets. I'm not looking to build this strictly for long range competitive target shooting where I'm using only match grade bullets. No, I want to be able to take your Sierras, your Berger hybrid hunters, your Nosler Accubons, your Accubon long ranges, your Federal Fusions, your Terminal Ascents, really good reliable hunting bullets, and be able to drive them faster while still maintaining moderate recoil, good barrel life, and an affordable thing. Because I'm going to ask the question to anyone who's watching this. If you go to the store and it's your first time, let's say it's your first time buying a rifle, okay? Because the fact is, whenever you're going to a store, you're going to purchase a gun and you're going to purchase the ammunition alongside of it. Very seldom do people go and just buy this ammunition just to simply rebarrel a rifle themselves. A lot of people are simply going to buy the rifle. So keeping that in mind, if you can have the option, you're staring at the rack in front of you, and there's these rifles. One's chambered in a standard 270 Winchester, one's chambered in my 27 caliber. Okay? If you have this here, and the rifles are basically the same price, we're going to say, just for sake of argument, they're $750. That's not an expensive rifle anymore. That's fairly budget as it goes anymore because of inflation. And then you walk over and you see the ammunition shelves and you go, hey, here's this cartridge next to this cartridge. And you're like, okay, they're within a couple dollars of each other. We're not talking a big gap. We're not talking like a difference of $30 or $40 in your ammunition costs. We're talking a difference of $2, $3 maybe at max. This standard box of 270 is $40. This one's like maybe $40 to $42. So they're basically the same cost, right in the same wheelhouse. But when you look at the data on the back of the box and you realize that for pennies difference, you can get 100 to 150 feet per second faster with a heavier bullet to be a flatter trajectory and harder hitting on things like whitetail, mule deer, elk. I don't know about you, but if I saw that and it was only a minor difference in cost, I'm going with the higher performance cartridge. So yeah, that's affordable. Anymore, the average box of ammunition is costing whether it's 308, 30-06, or 270, you're looking at about $30 to $40 a box on average. So if guys are willing to go to the store and pay that, and I can have my ammunition in there, my cartridge design in the same wheelhouse, I'm talking about in the same price point, and you're getting a way better performance out of it, which one would you take? I know which one I would take. I've said it before and I'll say it again. The only reason the 280 Ackley Improved is not the most popular cartridge on the market has nothing to do with its performance and everything to do with its cost. Outside of going custom, which most people don't want to do, they want to be able to go to the store and just buy a rifle. How many 280 Ackley Improved rifles do you actually see on the shelf? I've only ever seen one, and it was a used Nosler, and it was like still $2,200. Okay? And if you go to the store and you see 270 30-06 308 next to 280 Ackley ammo, what kind of price point you looking at typically difference? The cheapest box of ammunition I've normally see on average is about $60. Most of them are in the $80 range. Okay? 280 Ackley ammo is expensive. Is it getting better? Yes, but very slowly. So the question is, for the guys who want to get into something like this, why is it a problem that I choose to do this? And, again, I demonstrated in a video that in my rifle, because of its bottom plating and everything else, I can see a bullet into there that's over 3.5 inches. And it feeds in and empties just fine. I can do that out of a Ruger American Gen 1 action. You can do it out of the Ruger American Gen 2 actions. Now, I'm not sure of all the dimensions on the Tikkas. They might be a little tighter. But there's a lot of companies that are opening up their bottom metal to make it more accessible to longer actions. Browning's doing it. Bergara, Weatherby. Heck, you could literally, because Weatherby already uses in their 307 line the MDT stocks. So literally to convert that over for them as a factory offering would be super simple because I'm also using an MDT stock. So they could literally call up MDT and go, hey, we're still using the 307. We just need this stock and this magazine option. And all they do is take their 27 caliber, throw and just chamber it to what mine is, and they could be selling them at the same cost with no difference outside of just those things. And what do they cost on average? $1,100 to $1,200. They're not ultra expensive. They're not the cheapest, that's true, but they're not the $2,000 to $3,000 rifles. So when I look at that, I go, that's a good, reliable price where people can spend. There's a reason why they're popular. They're not the most expensive, but they shoot really well. I had one. And I went back to a 27 caliber, not because of the rifle itself, but because I didn't need a 7 Rem mag. I spend more time hunting deer than I do elk. So I went back to 270. But that rifle was phenomenal. So Weatherby, if anybody from Weatherby is watching this, you guys make a really good rifle, and I'd love to work with you. So anyone who's watching this from a rifle manufacturer, if you're seeing this, yeah, I'd love to be able to work with you because I think there's a good way to bring a really good cartridge to the market here, especially if you're talking about something like a bolt action, a single shot, especially with the new Thompson centers coming out. That's going to be it. It doesn't matter what the length of it is. It's a breech loader. So that's all I have for today. I want people to understand I am passionate about this. I have a vision for it, and I'm continuing in that path. And if you want to see something else and it's not for you, and you have an idea on something else you want me to see develop, I'm all for suggestions. But this particular cartridge is going to stay in the lane that it is. I will gladly work on something else if it's not fitting inside the 3.34 and you guys want to see something to fit inside the 3.34, I'll gladly come up with something for it. But it's not going to be this particular cartridge. It's going to be something different, which doesn't mean it's bad. It's just different. So, and it'll still perform. That I will guarantee. it will perform. You know, if there's one thing I have in this life, it's my reputation. So if I'm putting my name into it, it's because it's going to have good results. So I appreciate all the support. You know, again, this is a big learning curve. I'm sure it's a learning curve for everybody. It's been a big learning curve for me. And you know what? I'm okay with that. And I'm going to continue to learn. So please like, subscribe, share, comment, and we'll talk to you again.